Thank you very much, Semaye, there, sampling people's opinion on how addictive they are on social media. And to take us deeper on how addictive people are on social media, I have a psychologist with me here, right here in the studio, to talk to us more on that. Help me welcome Peace Olawale. Peace, you're welcome to the program.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm glad to be here today.
I know you're so glad to be here, right?
Yes, yes.
The topic before us this morning to me is very, very interesting. And I know you are the best person to talk to us because I know you have lots and lots of experiences. Now we are looking at effects of social media addiction, especially among youths. We know the world, they say, is a global village. Now let's start this way. How prevalent is social media addiction among youths?
Okay, so that's a very good question.
Yeah.
And there's a study that was done, and it claimed that there are about 200 million people who are addicted to social media.
Including
so to put
you.
That hopefully not including me.
All right.
To put that into context or perspective for
Okay.
you, imagine that every single person in Nigeria was addicted to social media.
Wow.
So you can imagine how many people we're looking at. And so the implication of that is that, of course, because almost everybody is on social media, and so it means that it's something that we can't necessarily do without. It's a necessary evil, because especially now with after COVID and how we all had to go online, so WhatsApp, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, everything.
Everybody, they're both young, old,
everybody. And you can imagine one person having like 5, 6 different accounts across platforms. And so it's definitely something that has become a matter of concern, because so many people are actually addicted to it. And the funny thing is that you won't even realize how bad it is, or the fact that you're actually addicted, until you begin to look closely, which is why this program is really important, so that we look in depth at what it is. So yes, social media addiction is prevalent, but it's not tagged that because we don't usually know about it, or we're not aware of it.
Okay. Now, you talked about during COVID, it exposes a lot of people to this social media.
Yeah.
And talk to us other factors that contribute to this social media addiction.
Okay, so the first thing right off the bat is, you know, peer pressure.
Yeah.
And now not peer pressure in the sense of, oh, they're pressurizing you to do something bad, but imagine everybody is talking about, oh, that person did this, and we saw it online, and then there's you who doesn't know about it. So the next thing you're going to do is, okay, pick up a social media platform and let's get informed of what's happening, right? And so at the end of the day, what happens is that a lot of people, because they want to belong, we want to be part. As human beings, we are social animals, as psychologists sometimes put it. So we want to belong, we want to be part of what's going on. And so immediately, we are seeking ways to be part of that group. And so another thing that is commonly used now, FOMO, which is one of the newer languages due to social media, fear of missing out. And so the fear of missing out is, oh my goodness, when I'm sitting there minding my business at the office, what's going on that I don't know about? What's the latest update? So the next thing you're doing, every 5 minutes you're thinking like, okay, in case I don't want to miss out on, I don't want to be the last person who heard about what happened on the internet. So that is where we're addicted to it. Another thing also, sometimes it's for some people, low self-esteem. So because they don't see themselves as being worth anything, they find validation on social media. And what happens is that in the brain, there's a neurotransmitter that is released when we do something that we find pleasurable. And so every time you post a picture on social media and you see all those many likes, they're increasing. There's a rush, you know, there's a oh, you're important, you know, people are seeing me, I'm appreciated. And so because of that, you're now beginning to push yourself more and more. So you're spending more time online because by the time you had 50 likes yesterday, tomorrow you want 80. By 80, you want 8,000. The next thing, becomes a cycle, right? And so you keep on going back because you really, really want that validation. So low self-esteem is another thing. Another thing also can be depression or anxiety. So for some people, the screen is where they can hide. You hide from the reality of life, what you're dealing with. Maybe you don't actually feel like you're worth anything, but then when you come online and you're able to filter your pictures very well, because these days we know that a lot of things are filtered online. Even people's bodies, you think that, oh, this is the person, but in actual fact, there's a filter for that. And so people who are able to filter themselves and project a very good image, they're accepted. And so you also feeling like, okay, I'm not that great in real life, you now quickly go online to where you can present who you want to be as opposed to who you actually are. So these are some of the things.
Okay, having talked to us some of the factors that contribute to people being addicted to social media. Now let's talk about the long-term effect of it.
Yes, so I think this is one part that we have not fully come to understand yet, because we are still in the age where it's beginning. But then some of the things, let's talk about physical first of all. Your eyes. That exposure to the screen for all those many hours,
24/7.
You're hurting your eyes. And funny enough, like these days, there's nothing you do, you're going to be on a screen in some form. So if you're not working on your laptop, you're working on your phone. If you're not on your phone, you're watching TV. So at the end of the day, your eyes are constantly exposed to all this screen time, which affects you. Also, for people who text extensively, it's actually not good for your fingers, because this position that you're always taking when you're texting and you're doing this for hours and hours, many people might not be able to relate because you haven't gotten to that extent, but there are people who are ever texting on their phone. So it can also affect your joints in the long term. So other aspects now, obviously, is that you're not going to be able to find satisfaction outside of your phone. So you know that sometimes like you go out with people and then you notice after 5 minutes of talking, okay, we're done discussing, the next thing everybody's bringing out their phone. So the addiction, one of the effects is that you are unable to have meaningful conversations, meaningful relationships with real people. So everything is virtual. So that's another of the effects that can actually be very damaging long term.
Okay, you know, we are actually looking at the negative aspect. I know anything that has a negative aspect also has a positive aspect. But the negative aspect we are looking at, can anybody be intentional about staying off social media? Can you regulate yourself as to the time you come online to do certain things and go back? Is it possible?
That is a very, very good question, and yes, it is absolutely possible. But you have to be intentional, like you said. It's not something that just happens by chance. So one of the first things that you can do, you can set a limit for yourself. And if you know that you're not able to keep that limit, there are apps these days that help you to monitor your screen time. So you know that, okay, 2 hours in a day is all I'm going to use. And then you now intentionally make the effort. If you know that you by yourself cannot do it, you can have somebody monitor you and say, okay, once it's this time, just take my phone, take the phone away. Another thing also is engage in activities. So especially when it comes to like teens, for example, they are bored a lot of times, and so they now turn to social media to keep themselves occupied. So it's very, very important that you put in activities, physical activities. So have your child learn how to play an instrument, learn swimming, riding bicycles, you know, do something that is physically engaging.
Yes, because I was coming actually to that question, that as parents, caregivers, educators, how can we, you know, guide our children, the younger ones, the young adults, yes, on how to be minimal on social media?
Definitely. So you cannot tell them to stop without giving them an alternative. So that's why you have to now make the extra effort, you know, invest in activities that they can do. So whether that is painting, whether that is music, anything engaging that keeps them occupied for longer periods of time. Also introduce your child to books. It's very important.
These days.
We have thrown books out of the window, and it's so sad because there's so much that reading does for you. Because for example, if you notice that people who are always texting, they're always using abbreviations. So instead of saying what are you doing, you now write WYD, and it affects your English going forward. Like when you're now actually writing, you have difficulty. So introduce books, you know, things that are more helpful, that will keep you intellectually stimulated. So yes, that's one of the things that you can definitely do.
Okay, are there any age limit or any age appropriate guidelines or limit for these social media users?
Yes, yes. So one of the beauties of technology is that we have parental control. Yes. And so you would have to obviously have a conversation with your child and let them understand that, okay, these are going to be the limits. So before you even put those, have a conversation with the child. So after you've set those in place, you now need to lock particular websites. Personally, this is now not generally an acceptable thing, but I personally believe that you should wait till your children are much older before you allow them to have personal phones, just because you're able to monitor what they're doing more closely. So ensure that you have parental control in place. Another thing that you can also do is just ensure that you keep an eye on the child. You don't need to be hovering and looking every 2 minutes,
What
but because that makes them uncomfortable.
Yes.
But then you need to just ensure that you don't forget that the child is on the phone and then they're doing things that you don't know about. So every once in a while, just check on with the child. Oh, how are you doing? What are you up to? If you notice anything suspicious, then you might begin to want to like look into the search history and all of that. But for the most part, you just want to ensure that you're keeping an eye on your child as they're going through exposure to the internet, just to prevent them, because there's a lot of really bad stuff on the internet these days, so.
And this is now taking me to my very last question, because you know we don't have time again. Final words, your advice to everyone that is watching right now on how to be minimal on social media.
Definitely. So I think one of the first things that we want to do is be conscious of it, like we already established. Be intentional. So acknowledge that, okay, it seems like I have an issue, and if you know that this is beyond you, you can definitely look for therapy. It's something that is an option. And then once you're intentional about it, begin to take proactive steps. So replace your time with more meaningful activities. So when you're stopping the social media, don't just stop and then you sit down looking at it. You have to do something else that will ensure that you're occupied during that time.
Right.
Yes. So
thank you so much, Ms. Olawale, for coming on our show and giving us this wonderful information on how to use our social media.
Thank you so much.
We do really appreciate your time.
Thank you.
All right. Yes, we have been speaking with Peace Olawale. She is a psychologist and she has talked to us a lot on how to be minimal on social media, what to use social media to drive at and not to be addicted to it. Now we're going to go on this quick break. When we return, the program continues. Stay with us, please.